invited Charles Antis and Karen Inman to join us today to talk about Antis roofing and waterproofing, and also about what they're doing to give back into the community. So, Charles, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Karen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Karen, you're president and CEO.
I am.
And Charles, you're CEO and founder.
Yes.
All right. Well, we got you. We got the brass here, baby. I wonder if you two could start the interview here on Critical Mass Radio Show and Podcast. Think about a interesting story or something you'd like to share with our audience. And Charles, why don't you kick it off?
Well, I could tell lots of stories. Thank you, Rick, for asking me. But the stories that are the funnest to tell lately are the ones that include Karen.
Okay.
Because Karen has brought such an amazing spirit to our company.
Huh.
And I'll tell it like this. Karen has been here a year.
Mm-hmm.
She was here about a month, and after I recruited her for 3 years to get her here, and she's lifting everybody around her. I just gave away the punchline. That's so
okay.
funny.
That's okay.
So Karen is literally having this huge impact, and I go to her one day, and I like to throw people off by asking them questions outside of the box, like, Karen, do you realize you have a superpower? And she says, yes.
Wow.
Oh, what is it? I lift everyone I touch every day. And she does. And that is an amazing thing to witness. And I said, well, how long have you had this? And she goes, since I was 31, 32, and I did
So
the
not
math.
that long, yeah.
Yeah, not that long.
Thank you, sir.
Actually, it
Thank
was
you.
23 years.
Okay.
But how
Wow.
is that?
We're getting real fast here. Okay.
For 23 years, she knows what she does, and she does it. And so Karen, after that, she saw my excitement. She took me to Seattle to Aaron Hurst's Purpose Lab, an imperative purpose lab. And if you don't know who Aaron Hurst is, he wrote a book called The Purpose Economy, which is powerful and game-changing if you want everyone in your company to be fulfilled. She took me to Seattle, and I found my superpower by meeting with these incredible companies, finding purpose. And now, because of Karen, I know what my superpower is, what fulfills me, and that is to ignite passion in others for social change. So I feel like we're like Batman and Robin.
Amen.
And we're having a fun time doing it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you know your loyal listeners of Critical Mass Radio Show and Podcast. Whenever you hear that podcast sound, that gong sound, that means you may want to hit about 30 seconds back on your podcasting software. I would say in this case, maybe go back maybe a minute and a half to hear the conversation and the answer to the first question that Charles Antis just gave us, because it's something that you may want to listen to. And also, there's a book mentioned there, which I love for those the lifelong learners that are listening. Karen, do you have anything to add to that story?
I would.
Okay.
So as I was talking to Charles, and he was talking to me about coming over to Antis and what that might look like. And the reason why I chose to go to Antis, and you'll find that this is core to not only Charles, but the company as a whole, is, you know, as you're in your career and you find what you're good at and you have a role, and I've been a leader for a long time and I'm good in operations, okay, so those are things that you bring to the table. And as we grow older, that's one of the things I like to say, you get comfortable in your own skin, and you know.
Yes, amen.
But part of that was, well, why would I go to Antis? And I went to Antis because Charles is convinced and committed to making a difference in the community every day, and that means his team and in the community wide. And I wanted to be a part of that at that point in my career about a year ago, to say yes to doing more and doing better in the community. What a great thing to be doing at this point in my career. Why wouldn't I have chosen Antis?
I don't know. That sounds awesome. You two feel like a good match here, working together after the first year. I'm very excited for that. So we're going to be talking about the social aspects of what you do and how it's a part of your culture. But before we get there, let's set the context for what it is that Antis Roofing and Waterproofing does. Charles, would you kick it off?
Sure. We are a roofing company. In truth, we're exterior shell construction, decking, siding, but predominantly roofing. But we exist exclusively in the HOA arena.
Okay.
So we service 1,200 homeowners associations in Southern California. We keep them dry.
And anything to add to that, Karen?
So I would say that the Antis model is unique, that it's to the HOA industry, but also within that, a model that is a high-touch customer service model.
Right.
And then also understanding that for HOAs, as an investment in their roofing, it's important to extend the lifespan of that roof as long as you can. So it isn't just about going in and doing re-roofs, although we do that. It's about maintaining the asset and getting the longest life that we can for the HOA. And so that makes us different in the marketplace, high-touch customer service, but also maintaining the asset for as long as possible.
So I love it when I have business entrepreneurs on the radio show that have a defined clarity about the niche that they serve. I believe that, you know, the people that listen to my radio show are CEOs and business owners of lower middle market firms, right? And I find the most successful companies understand their niche and they do everything they can to be true to that niche. And you talked about the HOA market as being your niche. Why? So I'm going to go back to the beginning of time. I don't know how far back, but
that was my answer. Why? We have a why. I think that we have lots of whys, but we want to make a difference. It's not just to make a profit. Antis Roofing has a why we exist, and that is to keep families safe and dry in their homes.
Oh, my God.
And when you have a
That's
why, it makes all the difference in the world. It's really easy to answer questions, and we get asks, whether it's for profit or for fun and for free, our why dictates how we answer that question, and it's usually a yes.
Okay. Okay, so how do I say this without, and we only have about a minute left in this block, but how do I say this without unintentionally insulting you, because I would never want to insult guests. But this high-touch model, this socially responsible, and the other things that I personally know about your culture maybe isn't always associated with a construction company to begin with, and secondarily to a roofer. Why did you think, I think you're a little bit of an anomalous to maybe some of the other companies that are in your space. That's a compliment. Do you, Karen, you coming from the outside, you have a clearer perspective on this.
Agreed.
Do you think that's the case?
I do.
Do you think that attracts? Because when you talk about why in Simon Sinek, I believe part of that power is by being willing to be transparent that way, you can attract people to your brand.
Yes.
That's
honestly, why I'm there.
Okay. Not only customers, but employees then too, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if I could get Paul to ring the gong, I think having a why in your business is a very powerful concept, and it is something to consider. And it doesn't come easily, though, does it? I mean,
It took me a long time to understand the context of that, but I would implore your listeners to search it out and find your best version of an answer to your why. And that's all you need to be right now. But if you don't have a why today, it's a lot different than not having a why 10 years ago. There's a huge shift out there, and we're watching it, we're feeling it, and it's hitting brick and mortar, and it's hitting service businesses. Liabilities are going up, margins are going down. Employees aren't sticking. Retention is a worse problem than attraction.
Wow.
And so we have to have a why to survive.
All right, we're going to take a break, but before that, I'd like to let you know that my why is to have a lasting positive impact on the lives of the clients that I work with, because I've been through the Simon Sinek process, and I believe it's really a powerful thing. It does give you that focus from which you can respond with conviction. All right, we're going to take a very short break here on Critical Mass Radio Show, and when we come back, you're not going to want to miss this. I'm going to ask Charles to share his core philosophy. You know, that is your guiding principle that you're using to continue to lead and grow the firm. So stay tuned. It's less than 30 seconds. It's just a simple discussion about one of the products or services that I offer, Critical Mass for Business. So stay tuned for this message from me.
Richard Franzi is a highly sought-after keynote speaker on topics of interest to CEOs of middle firms across North America. Richard's talks include Killing Cats Leads to Rats, a fascinating look at how unintended consequences of CEOs' decisions impact their firm's performance. Your Gray Matter Matters, which explores how a CEO's mindset can differentiate a middle market firm and define its culture. Richard delivers talks to a variety of audiences, ranging from executive team retreats to keynotes in front of hundreds of CEOs. To learn more about his talks, visit criticalmassforbusiness.com and select the contact page or call 949-887-4104.
Welcome back to this edition of Critical Mass Radio Show and Podcast. You know, a great way to stay informed about our guests, our great guests, like Karen and Charles, is simply to sign up for our weekly newsletter. Go to my website, please, criticalmass4business.com. At the bottom of any page, At the bottom of any page is a simple subscribe to our mailing list box. Type your email address in there, hit send like magic. You'll start receiving our weekly newsletter, which contains information about these great upcoming guests, as well as special insights from me. We do nothing else. I'm looking at the camera. We do nothing else with your email address but add you to our newsletter, and that's it. You're not going to receive any other communications from Critical Mass for Business but this newsletter that you've asked to receive. So I hope you will take the time to sign up for our newsletter. All right, we're back with Karen Inman and Charles Antis. Karen is the president and CEO. Charles is the founder and CEO. Karen's the president and COO, and Charles is the CEO and founder. I teased it before the break. You know, I've written a book and revised it 3 times on this subject with the great answers from guests like you, Charles. What is your guiding principle for how you're building and growing Antis roofing and waterproofing?
That's a great question, and I feel like I could go a lot down different ways, but there's a couple of things that come up all of the time that I'm so proud of because they're so counterintuitive.
Okay.
And the first is this. We believe in erring on the side of generosity with all stakeholders at all times in any negotiation.
What?
Erring on the side of generosity with all of our stakeholders.
Could you explain that a little bit more?
Well, it sounds dangerous to explain, but I'm going to because I keep finding that the more I talk about it, the better we do. But it used to never seem like enough. When I started my business, okay, I could be generous here, but I got to be really cheap here. And it was always robbing Peter to pay Paul, sort of. It was self-fulfilling prophecy. But somewhere along the line in us trying to do the right thing, because we have to do the right thing. I mean, and you don't want to cheat anybody, but somehow you found out in the process, I can be generous with my stakeholders in the community. I can be generous with my employees. I can be generous with my vendors. I can be generous with every entity in my life and have more. And how that works, I don't understand the science of it.
Okay.
But we are tried and true. We err on the side of generosity with all of our stakeholders in every situation. And the second, I'll let you tell the second, Karen.
And so the second piece of that, the counter to that, is that in order to grow, we believe we have to give more. So the more that we give, the more that we will grow. We think the two are intertwined. We really do believe that the why is connected. So to your point about it not being typical to have a roofing company or a contractor in the space of understanding why and purpose, I think you're right. I think that's changing. And part of that is going to be, in order to grow, you have to give. You do. And I think, right, you'll get a response to that.
And I'll just say one more thing. And what we found is the more we give, the more we grow. The more we grow, the more we can give. And it's like, oh my God, what's happening?
Right.
That's what's happening.
So I just wanted to put a finer point on the word give. Can you define what you mean by give?
Mm-hmm. So give can be, of course, a financial contribution. We do a lot of that. That can be in-kind services for us. Give also, in the spirit of erring on the side of generosity, can be making sure that we take good care of our employees and providing them an opportunity to serve others. So it can be both monetary, but also just time.
And how does it form the foundation of the culture of Antis Roofing and Waterproofing?
I'll give you a quick example. With this feeling, with this fever to do this, things develop. For example, at the beginning of December this year, all of our employees are going to receive a check. And it's a Mexican tradition for large business in Mexico to give what's called an aguinaldo, which is a Christmas bonus, which is about 1/10 of their salary. Now, ours is a bonus based on performance, but our performance is so good this year, we believe that our employees, many are going to earn about an extra month's pay and salary,
Wow.
at least a few weeks. And that is part of this erring on the side of generosity with all of our stakeholders. And I think an area I passed up earlier in my career was my employees. We would throw big parties for the clients, and I didn't realize it, but I was crapping on my employees.
Right.
And I will never do that again. The employees come first as we take care of all of our stakeholders.
Yeah, that term stakeholders is an all-encompassing term, and sometimes the last one to be mentioned are the longest-term stakeholders, and I find that to be your employees.
Yes, agreed.
They're usually the ones who will be there maybe throughout their entire professional life if the culture and the opportunity is correct.
And employees have magic when they are listened to, when they reciprocate, when they're allowed to make mistakes, when we treat them like family instead of like a dictator military type situation. We have magic in our employees. We have employees creating incredible things. We have, our employees are finding their superpower, which, by the way, we are going to find all of our employees' superpower once we're certified purpose leaders, which is coming up soon. Thank you, Karen.
That's awesome. So, do you find that you're attracting a different type of person in the industry? Or can I say it differently? Are people in the industry leaving their current place of... How many people do you have at Antis Roofing?
Just under 100.
Wow. Okay, that's quite a number of people. The trucks and all the stuff that goes along with the kind of work that you do. But are you finding, because it attracted you, Karen, but do you have other examples, Charles, of letting people know what you're like and that people wanting to come to work for you because of that?
I mean, we do. Do we want to tell all the stories?
No, you don't have to. I just want to make a point to the audience.
Absolutely. We see them coming from other really reputable roofing companies. We see them coming from very reputable firms in our industry, people like Karen. We have many others that we could talk about that we've attracted, but I don't want to leave any out, so I'm not going to mention names.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. I just got a question from a listener to define what is a certified purpose leader. Did I get that?
Yes,
Okay.
Certified Purpose Leader is part of the Imperative company, so that's Aaron Hurst's company, and we went there in Seattle. That was the reference that Charles made.
Okay, earlier in the show.
And so they actually have a Certified Purpose Leader program so that you can help your team understand their purpose. And it's beyond a personality test.
Okay.
It really is about getting to the core of what drives you and how you make decisions and the way that you see the work world as well as the world kind of in a broader way, and will help your individuals that are on your team find their purpose, what their passion is. Mine is to lift others each and every day. Charles is to ignite passion. Yours.
Yeah. To having a lasting positive impact on the lives of the people that I work with.
Go.
So that also is probably a good way for building culture. Right? Because I mean, as far as interviewing for people that fit the culture, the people that get turned on by this kind of stuff would like to work for you guys. People who think this kind of stuff is not valuable in business aren't going to probably come to work for you. And if they did, they probably wouldn't feel comfortable in that.
Self-select out.
Right. That's what's so awesome.
It's awesome.
It is awesome. This is just an awesome show here.
Who knew it'd be so easy?
You're getting pearls, ladies and gentlemen, today here on Critical Mass Radio Show and Podcast with Karen Inman and Charles Antis. Okay, I've got time. I want to go over just a couple minutes, Paul, but because I didn't want to end this interview without asking. I know that you do work for Habitat for Humanity. I know there's other community partnerships that Antis Roofing and Waterproofing does. But why is this so important that you provide these services and give back to the community?
I mean, I didn't know it was important, but it's something we've always done. And I think that I don't have time to probably tell our origin story, how all this really started. The first year, there was a big give that I had to do, but it was really hard to do, and somehow I didn't sink my company. But I've noticed that over the years, this is what it turned out to be. We could never let somebody have a leaky roof just because they didn't have the money to pay. So it ends up being, they don't have the money, but, and it still feels that way. We get a nonprofit that'll call us. We had 20 nonprofits call this year with leaks and asked for new roofs, new maintenances, and we didn't turn any away.
It rained a lot this year.
It did, but we can't, at the end of the day, it's like, you know what, we got enough, and let's do it. And that's why our culture is the best culture in Orange County, because we make the community a family.
Yes.
And it's awesome.
It must feel good.
It does.
It feels good.
And it's good to, you can choose to come from a position of scarcity or abundance.
Yes.
We choose to come from abundance.
Yes.
And we do good work because of that, and we have great employees because of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Boy, that's wholesome. All right. I'm sorry, but we're running out of time on Critical Mass Radio Show. I know, Karen, you have to come back.
Okay.
Done.
All right, Charles, come back. We'll talk more, ladies and gentlemen. My commitment to you is we'll find time to get him back on the schedule. So if someone would like to learn more about the firm, where do they go online to do that?
Well, you can find us at Antis Roofing Facebook, but you can also look at Antis Roofing.
How do you spell Antis?
ANTIS.
Okay.
And antisroofing.com is our website. Karen, what am I missing out?
And at Antis Roofing. for our social media tags.
Okay. So using the brand, that's smart. All right.
Yep.
Well, I'd like to thank you both, Karen and Charles, for being a friend of the program, giving of such great insight, and being members of this critical mass community here in Southern California. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
This
Rick.
was
It
very
fun.
much fun. Thank you so much.
It was
for
a blast.
inviting us.
I've been excited to have you two on the show for months, literally, because we've been talking about having you guys in with your busy schedules. We finally were able to work it out here. So if you're listening to this as a live stream, it'll be up as a podcast on iTunes tomorrow morning or Stitcher, so you may want to re-listen or share it with some friends and colleagues that you know who are business owners and executives. I think there were a lot of lessons to learn here. I'd like to thank our engineer for today's show, Paul Roberts. He's also the owner of OCTalkRadio.net. We have several producers, Joan Park, Crystal Nunley, and Haley Stern. Thank you very much for your contributions for today's show. If you'd like to learn more about the radio show or the CEO peer groups that I lead, you can find me on a couple different platforms. On Twitter, my social handle there is CEO Peer Groups. So on Twitter, I'm CEO Peer Groups. If you want to watch some other videos like this interview, I have a YouTube channel, and it's simply Richard Franzi. If you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, would love that. I'm Richard Franzi on LinkedIn, spelled Franzi. My Facebook page is my business, Critical Mass for Business, as is my website, criticalmassforbusiness.com. I have an active blog on there. By the end of the week, there's going to be 3 key takeaways that I got from today's meeting or today's radio show interview. So if you want to check that out, it'll be on the blog with a link back to the podcast. So I'd just like to thank you both again for being on the show. And I'd like to say to all of you that are in the listening audience, I hope all of your business decisions will move your company in a positive direction.
You have been listening to Critical Mass Radio Show Business Talk Show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.